The Mythic Banner for July 2020 is here. As always, these monthly banners have a starting 8% 5-star focus rate and a permanent 0% non-focus 5-star rate. That means if you do get a 5-star unit, it's guaranteed to be one of the 12 heroes on this banner. We'll be going over every unit available briefly, and that includes mentioning what kinds of sweet skills you can use for fodder. First off, we are starting the second half of 2020 with Mythic Hel. It's been a long time since the end of Book 3, but she's here to join Leila and Thrasir. Hel is going to be a dark mythic hero that boosts defense, and like in the main story, she is a flying axe unit. For old skills, Hel is bringing some pretty good stuff. Her special is Luna, which is not bad, but she also has good old distant counter. Pretty much makes her prime fodder automatically, even if you don't want to use her. Hel also has guard bearing, which just got introduced by Summer Ingrid. This skill reduces the first attack from an enemy by 50%, but it only works once per enemy phase. It is slightly restricting, but if you're not fighting a bunch of enemies at one time, it's a great percent base damage reduction skill. It's also going to work really well with Hel's theme of just not dying. Despite being late to the party, Hel actually got a buff to her sight from the main story. Hel's Reaper has the same base effects as Hel's Scythe, but it also adds on IO's shield. For a complete rundown, this weapon exercises special trigger and now neutralizes any effective against flyer bonuses. The main ability of this weapon is that if the foe doesn't use a tome or staff weapon, Hel calculates damage using the enemy's res stat, and if Hel has more than 1 HP, she can survive a killing blow at 1 HP. This effect works once per combat and can't stack. So yeah, if you've played through Book 3, you should be familiar with Hel's annoying miracle ability. The ruler of the undead is unsurprisingly annoying to actually kill, and now she's making it even tougher if you plan on using an archer. That said, Hel's Reaper has a few things you need to keep in mind. First off, the main two abilities of this weapon only proc if you fight Hel with a unit that is not a mage or a healer. If you attack Hel with a mage, she won't have that miracle ability, and she'll die like a normal unit. A strong red mage or a typical Wrathful plus Dazzling Staff healer will be a great counter to Hel should she start to be an issue. Next, if you do fight her with a melee unit or a bow or dagger user, Hel always targets their res stat, and this is not adaptive damage. You can use this against Hel by attacking her with a really high res unit. For example, Air is a good example since her defense is really low, but her res stat is in a much better spot. Definitely keep that in mind since it definitely can hurt Hel's damage output. She may feel more like a dragon unit since most of her damage will target res stats, and only against really low defense mages and healers will Hel target that defense stat. Mages like Henry actually should work really well versus Hel's Reaper. Last note is that you have to remember Hel has guard bearing now. Not only does she have that miracle ability, but on the enemy phase in her first battle, Hel also gets 50% damage reduction for 1 hit. If your attack only takes Hel down to 2 HP, she can still proc her miracle, so definitely be careful with Hel. Moving on, we have Hel's new unique C skill, Inevitable Death. This is a simple skill that inflicts -4 to all stats on foes within 2 spaces of Hel during combat. We've seen this type of effect before from things like Thrasir's Hex, and it basically just means Hel has extra stats in her advantage. Anyone fighting Hel is going to lose -4 to all stats, and as a C skill, this is a pretty good ability for pure combative purposes. Like Thrasir's Hex, Inevitable Death can help allies if you position Hel correctly, so if you need a little extra power, try to see if you can move Hel closer first. Since we are talking about stats, we should have a decent idea of what Hel's stats are going to be. Enemy only units like Hel have a set of stats used for certain game modes, not necessarily for the main story, but these values give us the general idea of what kind of unit Hel is going to be. For example, Leila and Thrasir both ended up with very close real stat values when they became playable units. For Hel, these stats are 42 HP, 35 attack, 39 speed, 34 defense, and 17 resistance. Hel will most likely stay as a very fast unit, which works well with guard bearing and her miracle ability since less enemy follow-up attacks means it's harder to finish off Hel. If her res remains on the low side, then mages and Wrathful Staff healers will be the way to go for taking her down. You do need to get past guard bearing though, and Hel has distant counters, so she can retaliate. I do think Hel is going to stick to a similar final set of stats, but as we can see from the trailer, she only had 40 base HP, so already there are going to be some changes going on. Overall, Hel will probably be an annoying enemy to face, especially if you don't bring a mage or an offensive healer. She's probably going to be really fast, and she gets an even bigger stat advantage thanks to Inevitable Death. If you attack into her, guard bearing halves that initial damage, and for most units you're going to need to hit Hel multiple times to actually finish her off. Something that immediately comes to mind is giving Hel Mystic Boost from Air, a miracle ability that isn't based off of special charges, plus healing after every fight is downright scary. If Hel has Mystic Boost, you either have to finish her off with a major healer, or you have to hit her twice with the first hit actually proccing that miracle effect. Since she should be naturally fast, follow-ups are going to be difficult to get unless you use a weapon or skill that grants a guaranteed follow-up. It's not an unbeatable tactic, but if you don't have the right tools, you could possibly not be able to finish Hel off. Between Guard Bearing and Mystic Boost, they both seem annoying to face. With Guard Bearing, Hel can shrug off a lot of damage, and it works on mages and healers as well. It only works once per enemy phase though, whereas Mystic Boost can let Hel tank an infinite amount of attackers if they don't have those certain abilities. In the context of Aether Raid, since Hel is a defensive mythic hero, you should have enough team variety to be able to handle her efficiently. A problem can arise if you let Hel initiate first though. She can do the same job as Seliph as a Wings of Mercy anchor, meaning she can attack, survive on 1 HP, and then the rest of the team flies in with Wings of Mercy to cause chaos. I would say Hel is going to be a pain to face, but we'll have to see how things play out. Luckily, I assume most players are saving up for CYL anyway, so hopefully she doesn't become the next unit you see every single battle. Now let's talk about the 11 other heroes on this banner. In the red group we have Altina, Legendary Roy, and Legendary Ike. Blue has Legendary Young Tiki, Fjorm, and Fiora. Green is really spicy with Hel, Legendary Edelgard, and Thrasir. Then Colorless is going to have Leila, Fallen Female Corrin, and Air. Too bad Leaf couldn't join in for the Book 3 reunion. Starting off the batting order, we have Altina. If you were playing earlier this year, you could have gotten a free Altina because the community voted for her, so that should tell you how good she is. Altina is a very fun flying sword user since dual wielding Ragnar and Alanda gets her distant counter and dual phase brave attacks. Combined with her high base attack advantage, Altina can easily clear out PV content by herself. Her unique special Twin Blades is a 2 cooldown Iceberg/Glacius type special, and it also bypasses any damage reduction type abilities, which is very quickly becoming a valuable trait to have. Ashera's Chosen also gives Altina protection from arrows, aka Iota Shield, and it gives extra attack and defense when Altina is by herself. Add on the boost from attack and defense Oath, and Altina brings a lot of extra attack to smack people around with. She is an extremely good unit and an Astro Mythic hero as well. The only downside is her only use for fodder skill is attack and defense Oath. Next we have Legendary Roy. He's an infantry swordsman with decent stats all around, and his Dragonbind sword has distant counter plus dragon effectiveness. Roy's Human Virtue C skill grants plus 6 attack and speed to Roy and adjacent allies at the start of the turn if they are not beast or dragon units. It's a really good buff for all types of team comps, and with bonus doubler, Roy gets a double dip for plus 12 attack and speed. Very solid sword unit and extremely easy to use as well. Last we have Legendary Ike. He can be gotten for free from completing the main story, so everyone has access to him. Following the pattern, Ragnar is a distant counter sword, and Ike has Radiant Aether, which is just a 4 cooldown Aether. Combining with Warring Breath, he can charge it up very fast and spam it all day long. While a bit outmatched by his fallen counterpart, Legendary Ike is still a solid unit for PvE content. Overall, red is not that amazing this time because we have 2 units a lot of players already have and only 3 really rare skills available. Regardless, if you want more copies of anyone here, it's not the worst group to try for. In the blue group we have Legendary Young Tiki. She's a blue armored dragon and just a ridiculous ball of stats. Very fast for an army unit and tanky too. Divine Mist also has distant counter with the Fierce Breath and Bold Fighter skills. This Tiki is scary on both phases of the game. Her With Everyone C skill grants Tiki and adjacent allies with plus 5 defense and res every turn, so she just becomes even harder to take down. Just a very strong unit if you like army units, and Fierce Breath or Bold Fighter are 2 good skills to inherit. Second, we have Fjorm. She is the free unit of Book 2, so everyone can get her for free as well. Fjorm is a Lance Infantryman with a distant counter lance and a more defensive kit. Her unique Ice Mirror special reduces damage taken and reflects some of that back on Fjorm's next attack. With Shield Pulse, Fjorm can have Ice Mirror up immediately, and it's also one of the rarest skills to get still. Last we have Fiora, who is a Lance Flyer. She is pretty fast with really high resistance, but she also has awful base defense for a melee unit. That is because Fiora also has Pegasus Flight 3, which procs if the user has 7 more speed than the enemy, and then does a res check where the foe loses attack and defense equal to 50% of the difference in res stats. Kind of a wonky skill to use, and you need a flyer with a lot of speed and high res, which is not a lot of units. Definitely a harder skill to actually use, and Fiora is the only unit with it, so not a lot of ways to try it out anyway. Fiora is also the only unit with the Guard Lance Plus, which is an inheritable lance with the Guard effect. I wouldn't say Fiora is a must-have lance flyer, but she does have unique skills on her. Next we have Mythic Hel and the green group, which is very stacked. We discussed Hel already, and she has 2 great skills to inherit in Distant Counter and Guard Bearing. She would be a really good unit to get if you wanted to arm Ashnard with that DC plus Guard Bearing combo. Second is Legendary Edelgard, making her first reappearance. She's an axe armor unit with some very unique traits. First off, Edelgard sacrifices her speed stat for extremely high attack, and Amir inflicts attack and defense debuffs on the enemy and prevents a follow-up if Edelgard is alone. Raging Storm then gives Edelgard another action if she initiates combat and is alone. This is a very powerful ability and can stack with Gale Force to give Edelgard 3 actions in 1 turn. Raging Storm also gives AD a follow-up if she's fighting a beast or dragon enemy. Armored Stride gives army units 1 extra movement if they start the turn alone, and Attack and Res solo reinforces Edelgard's solo playstyle, one of the more unique offensive army units around. Last we have Mythic Thrasir, an animal mythic hero. She's a very fast green infantry mage, and her tome is effective against dragons. It also grants extra stats and neutralizes skills that gives the enemy guaranteed follow-up attacks, but only if Thrasir is within 3 spaces of an ally. She then debuffs the nearest ally after combat, so you have to be a bit careful. Killing Intent gives Thrasir a desperation effect if the enemy has a penalty on them or if they're under full health. It also reduces their speed and resistance, so Thrasir can be a super deadly mage with some debuff support. Flashing Blade 4 lets her proc Moonbow in 1 round, and it has that 5 extra 2 damage on hit. Panic Smoke applies the panic status in an area after combat. Thrasir is a really good unit, and she won't completely kill her teammates like Leaf. Overall, the green group is super good. If you wanted Hel now, it is a good time to try and get her. The only real concern is that Choose Your Legends is probably in August, aka this coming month, so choose wisely. For Colorless, we have Air, who is another free unit. She's a flying dagger unit with decent attack and speed, and Air is a light mythic that boosts resistance. Running multiple Airs isn't a bad strategy against Hel thanks to her extra res boost. Air also has Mystic Boost if you wanted to give it to Hel. With her Dagger and Swift Sparrow, Air is going to boost her own attack and speed on initiations, and with Sparkling Boost, she heals the most damage ally for 10 HP. Getting an extra Air isn't bad for Aether Raids, but you can also just use Peony if we're just talking about extra lift score. Next we have Leila, who's an infantry dagger unit. Leila has an incredible attack and speed spread, and her constant dagger also grants more attack and speed too. With life and death 4, she can deal so much damage. Constant dagger also has a support partner mechanic where if Leila initiates within 2 spaces of her support partner, the enemy cannot counterattack and Leila swamps spaces with her partner afterwards. It's a very unique mechanic, and letting a ridiculously high attack and speed unit attack freely is pretty powerful. Leila also comes with some nice support skills with Rapid Attack and Speed Plus and Attack and Defense Ruse. While she does require some planning to hit her max potential, Leila is easily one of the best dagger units in the game, just on base stats alone. Last unit for today is Fallen Female Corrin. She's a colorless infantry dragon with really solid stats all around. Her Savage Breath grants bonus stats for the less allies within 2 spaces, up to +6 for every stat. This makes Fallen Corrin kind of a solo raid boss type unit. She wants to be all alone, but she'll kill everyone by herself, and she also has attack and speed solo for even more stats. We recently got that sweet solo Sacred Seal as well, so that's definitely another plus for this Corrin. She does also have Sudden Panic, which applies panic to grouped up enemies if they have less HP than the user. Definitely an annoying skill to face against. The Colorless group is also pretty good to summon for if you want some strong units or really powerful skills to fought her off. That's going to be it for this video. We finally have Hel in the game, and let me know what you think about her in the comments. For any new players or anyone not familiar, the Choose Your Legends 4 banner is most likely coming very soon. It has always been the second banner in August, and usually these units are all very good. For the winners for this year, we had Edelgard, Dimitri, Claude, and Lysithea. So if you played 3 houses, then this is probably a banner that's going to interest you. I myself am definitely saving up for COL. No more wasting orbs on summer banners. That's all I got for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.